better than nothing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Squat Cobbler. I'm Mike, at Official Pagan on everything.
And I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter.
And we've come here tonight to talk about Kelly's drug problem. No. Anytime we say it's like very special episode, I think of like the bad sitcom trailer bumps where they're like on a very special episode next week.
Yes, very special facts of life.
As you guys know, if you're Squat Cobbler fans, Kelly and I, one of the things we do, and it's become such a regular thing that it's basically every other episode we do this. We review the Alice Cooper records in order. We're doing all of them, and we're ranking them from our favorite to our least favorite. There's really none other than the first two Alice Cooper group records that I would say, don't like, maybe a third one for Kelly. But for the most part, we like all the records. So it's really just ranking our favorites near the top. And we talk about a lot of individual tracks, and we're even putting together a playlist of some of our favorites. While this is going on, there is a new Alice Cooper album that's about to come out called Paranormal. So of course we're going to review that, but we're not going to get to that just yet because we still have plenty more records to go. While this is going on though, we thought it'd be fun because they did just release the first single from that album. So we thought it'd be fun to do like a quick little episode, just kind of our first reactions to the single and what we're anticipating out of the album. So Kelly, let's start as we always do with the artwork. What do you think of the cover of the single?
Well, as you know, we had a chance to chat a little bit before we started recording, and the cover of the single appears to be from the same photo shoot that the cover of the album came from, and it's a very disturbed looking Alice, white background, very dark-haired Alice, craggy lines on his face. Features Alice. It's good. You absolutely know this is a Alice Cooper production when you see that. The title, Paranoiac Personality. This is going to kill me as far as a name.
You know what? This is an important thing, though, because we're going to get to this in a minute. I have some issues with the title, but keep going, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Let me try Paranoiac Personality. That Alice's facial expression seems consistent with the song's hard-to-pronounce title.
Now, you kind of touched on it already. You know, the cover, it seems indicative of definitely being from the same spread as they did the album cover. So the album cover has already been released along with the track listing. What was your kind of initial take when you saw all the information about the album and then taking you into hearing that first single?
So I'm very enthusiastic when I go through the track listing, and I found actually a couple good articles where they were interviewing one of the guitarists who has worked with Alice heavily on this, and he was involved in the first single as well, and kind of broke it down. And Bob Ezrin is playing big time on this album. And then as I went through the track listing, I'm very excited between, first of all, there's kind of the regular Alice Cooper solo part. Got a couple songs from the original Alice Cooper group as well, one of which is being described as very reminiscent of The Who. So that I'm kind of excited about because I'm a big Who fan. And then an additional bonus EP. I'm very excited to get this album out and listen to it because I think I'm going to truly enjoy it. What were your reactions?
So I'm really looking forward to it. My favorite parts, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for when we get to it, but probably not a spoiler if you've been paying attention to our Alice reviews to this point. My favorite parts of Welcome to My Nightmare, the part 2 of that, were the reunion tracks with the original Alice Cooper group. As anybody listening to this knows, you and I love Alice as a solo artist, but those Alice Cooper group records are really receive some of our highest praise, obviously. So I'm extremely excited. There's more Alice Cooper reunion stuff. I love this bonus EP that it's coming with. I kind of wish we got more Alice Cooper group stuff, maybe their own EP, their own album. But who knows? They did just announce a tour. So maybe we will be seeing more stuff from that. But still, a new Alice solo record along with some new Alice Cooper group stuff and some live tracks and all that. This is pretty exciting. Not really a fan of the album cover.
And nor am I. Harkens back to a split personality and two-headed Alice, and it's a photo where they've done that effect, and they've done it well, but could have been a lot more creative.
Yeah, I don't mind the white background because I actually think that makes it kind of stand out. That's kind of cool. And as you and I were just talking before we came on this, we were talking about digital versus physical purchase of this particular record. And apparently in independent record stores, they're going to get a special version of the vinyl that will have red discs. Like that'll look especially cool with, a white background on the cover and the red vinyl. I'm just disappointed kind of in the photo itself. Like I just wish it was just a picture of Alice. I feel like that would have been better. I get what they were going for with it, but it's just it's one of those situations where it's like a little too on the nose to where it kind of goes into a little bit cheesy, and instead of being what it could have been. I'm not going to let that cloud my opinion of the album when we get to it, and this certainly isn't raise your fist and yell. But again, we haven't seen all the artwork yet, so by the time we get to the review of this album, we'll have it in our hands, and we can really delve into the artwork the way that we like to.
Even if the album art's not a home run, there's promise here. This may be Alice's most recent offerings have all been pretty, very solid and enjoyable. This one may actually bump it up a level. This is I'm very very optimistic about this release.
Yeah, I got to be honest, it's interesting, especially going back through all of them. Obviously, by and large, the Alice Cooper group records are high on my list. But some of the Alice solo records, and particularly the earlier Alice solo records, are kind of like for me, if that makes sense. Because it just moves a little too far away from some of the Alice Cooper group stuff, and it's actually some of his later solo records that I think are some of the strongest stuff.
Yeah, he seemed to have hit a groove here, kind of late in the career, where there hasn't really been a misstep, and even an Alice misstep is still typically a pretty good album, but they've all been just rock solid and decent variety, great musicians. And it's not derivative of each other. They're all kind of unique in their own way. Because Welcome to My Nightmare 2 and Along Came a Spider are nothing like each other, but they're both two very good albums. This one looks the same, but it's going to be kind of have its own personality as well.
Absolutely. And that's why, even though I don't love the cover, I am excited about this record because the later stage Alice has been just putting out solid records, like you said, just really good solid records that I really enjoy listening to and actually get a lot more play than some of the early Alice solo records around here. So I'm pretty excited for it. I was excited to hear this song. It came out the day that you and I were on the road headed to Atlanta, so I didn't get a chance to hear it until I was in my hotel room late at night, but I was excited. Put it on. What was your initial take as soon as the song started? Because I want to get into the title, but I want to wait till we get to the chorus to talk about the title. Okay. The opening of the song, I'm really curious to hear your initial reaction on this.
There's a lot going on with this song. There are two solid callbacks to either previous Alice material or related media in there. Two for sure, and then the third one we can discuss a little bit to see. The first one occurs during this very kind of opening section so I too very excited. Here it is. This is the new Alice Cooper single. I hit play, and there's this kind of really fluid guitar starting off. You can tell it's kind of leading you into something, but it's not a rock guitar. It's this kind of fluid music going on, and then you're starting to get kind of some background noise going, and then the first callback, you get the School's Out bell as one of the sounds that are kind of playing in the background of this little intro song, and then all of a sudden that kind of snake-like pacing stops, and the drums kick in, the guitars kick in, and Alice kicks in almost all simultaneously into the song, and I go, good, this is good. I like this. This is a good start.
Yeah, I'm with you on the same thing. I got a little nervous with this School's Out bell because I recognize that right away, and I like that there's a little bit of an intro. It's interesting because it is short. It's not a really long intro before the actual band kicks in, but it's good. It sets the atmosphere, and we've talked about how, especially with my stuff, I like the guitar-driven stuff, and I like stuff that has atmosphere when it's with Alice, and we get both right away, right at the beginning. And School's Out bell made me a little bit nervous, and I'll tell you why, though, because there's so many, and I don't know if you've noticed this, or if you listen to any of these bands. I don't listen to all of them, but this is an issue with a lot of bands who came out in the same era that Alice did. The one that I'm going to pick on, and it's because they're one of my favorite bands, and I was really deeply disappointed in this album after I spent $100 on the super deluxe edition, was Black Sabbath with their album 13, which was a big commercial success for them. It was their first studio album with Ozzy in 100 years or something like that. I didn't really care whether or not it was with Ozzy. I was just excited for more Black Sabbath. I treat Black Sabbath like they're a sports team. It doesn't really, I root for the team. Does that make sense?
The helmet and the jersey.
Yeah, and that's the way I look at Sabbath, because there's been over 100 lineup changes in that band in their career, with multiple members being in and out at various points and different things like that. So I was just excited for the record, and then I turned it on, and there's some at first some callbacks to older material, which is kind of cool, until you get to the third or fourth song and you realize they're just recycling material for filler. They started reusing riffs and using sound effects from old songs and using melodies from old songs. And you realize, you didn't really get a new album out of this. It's just them trying to cash in on nostalgia and pass off reworkings of old songs as new songs right around that same time. And I'm not really a fan of these bands, but like Van Halen put out a new air quotes record, and a bunch of those songs were actually reworkings of old demos and B-sides and things like that. I'm not really a Van Halen guy, but again, not really a new album. Same thing with Aerosmith. They had a new record out, and apparently I don't listen to Aerosmith really beyond their first few records. Apparently it was kind of the same thing. There was a lot of recycled riffs and melodies and things like that. So when I heard that School's Out bell, I got really nervous.
I didn't, because there was the window between it and kind of figuring out where this thing was going was fairly short.
It was, yeah. But I just I'm still feeling so cheated by that Black Sabbath record that and I know a lot of these other bands of that era have been doing this. So as soon as I heard that, I was like, not Alice. So
the intro, so I like the little intro guitar stuff that's going on. It is decidedly not Alice-y guitar. Good, but it's not Alice-y guitar. So to me, it's a little bit like that starts, and then he goes, hey, reminder, it's Alice here. So you get the bell. Oh, yeah, it's Alice. And then he goes, now let me really remind you it's Alice. And then this thing kicks into gear, and you go, oh, yeah, it's an Alice Cooper song.
Yeah, absolutely. And when this kicks into gear, I was instantly calmed down, because I really like that sort of bouncy, like it's reminiscent of Alice Cooper Group, the original Alice Cooper Group, but it has almost like a little bit of a punk kind of bounciness to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit of punk bounciness, a little bit of kind of a slightly de-industrialized Brutal Planet. It doesn't have that just, steamroller, Brutal Planet, industrial stuff going, but this has got an engine to it. As it goes through, as I read the article where they were interviewing one of the co-writers, they're saying one of the things they were looking for was, we wanted a bass line that was this kind of very identifiable bass line, like Another One Bites the Dust or those types of things, and it's dominant. The guitar riffs are dominant, and as soon as it started playing, as soon as Al started snarling along, I'm going like, okay, this is. Because you never exactly know what you're going to get, but it was like, good. This is very strong.
Yeah, I'm really at this point. Like there was a moment of pause when I heard the School's Out retread in the beginning, but as soon as you get into the song, I was like, yes, I'm feeling really comfortable with where this is going. Snarling Alice. It is very bass driven, and it's funny that you say that, because that is something that I instantly took note of. Like, this is a very bass heavy song, and even with the B side, which we'll get into in a minute, which is a live version of 18, that's a particularly bass-driven mix of that song as well.
Yeah, and we can talk. I got a little bit of a theory on that when we get to talk about that song, about why that is. So this starts moving along, and it's Alice storytelling again, and it's the story of someone who's got a paranoid personality, and he's kind of okay with it. But so it's moving along pretty well. Some great lyrics. Early in the song, this is, to me, I'm giving it a partial callback. I'm not sure it was intended to be, because Alice has done so many songs, and some of the songs are phrases, and so sometimes I don't think you can always assume when he uses a phrase it's intended to be a callback. Right. But like in about the second stanza, he talks about everybody's got vicious rumors dripping off of their tongues, and of course, vicious rumors from the classic Special Forces album. What I thought perhaps it might be a callback. It might not, because you can't. Vicious rumors is also two commonly used words together, so I can't necessarily guarantee it was a callback. But I did notice that. Yeah,
I noticed it as well, but I completely agree with you. It's tough to tell, because Alice has definitely done callbacks to previous songs, so we know that this could be a completely intentional thing, but it does so. It is a common phrase, and it fits the theme of the song, so it is hard to say. Maybe once we hear the album as a whole, and if there's numerous callbacks to other songs, then that'll kind of verify that for us.
Now, if he had gone, everybody's got the prettiest cop on the block, then I would have known. It was a callback.
Wait, you don't say that?
That's not as common a phrase. No, I don't, typically.
Slightly less common a phrase.
Yes.
All right, and now when we get to the chorus, this is where I'm especially interested in your opinion. What do you think of the chorus on this one?
So I think it's serviceable for what this song is. I think when you kind of compare the main sets of lyrics to the chorus, the lyrics and the delivery and the kind of body of the song to me is significantly stronger than the chorus. I don't find the chorus weak, but I think there's a big difference between the two, with the minor exception of he ends a lot of the lyrics with a yeah at the end of a lot of them that I say, yeah, you could have maybe edited a few of those yeahs out. So it also struck me that it was like he had a lot of success with Poison, and in a chorus where you had like a lot of harmony and build up to it. And I wouldn't say that this chorus is intended to be a replication of that, but I don't think it maybe was a foreign concept to him to say, hey, the last time I had a chorus where there was some decent musicality going on in multiple voices and a repeatable kind of simple point, that did really well on the charts. And so with this being a single, I don't know if that was going through. So I don't mind the chorus. I think I was always waiting for the chorus to end to get back into the lyrical part, because I just felt it was much, much stronger, but I didn't dislike it.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much on the same page as you. The chorus is a little bit weaker than the verses in the sense that it's more simplified. I also think when he gets to saying the actual title of the song, and this is where it's a little bit of a contradiction for me, I completely agree. The simplified chorus that doesn't quite perfectly match the smarter, more story-driven verses it's definitely a ploy to make it more of a sing-along and, in favor or get some radio play or some extra attention in the song. And I completely understand that. And again, calling back to, like you said, think about Poison and songs like that where he had done similar things and had chart success with that. So it's completely understandable that he would think that. But then where that gets weird for me is the title, as we already established earlier in our little review here, it's a little bit of a mouthful.
Just a bit.
So it really doesn't sit well in this overly simplified shout-along chorus. And that's really my biggest quibble with the song is actually the title. Because if you're going to do this simple sing-along with the backing vocal kind of chorus, the shouted backing vocals in between Alice's parts, which is fine. But if you're going to do that, you can't have this sort of difficult to enunciate title, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when you could have got away with Paranoid Personality and been able to keep the sound structure the same.
Yeah, you could have gone Paranoid Personality, or even just worded it completely different. Because like the chanting of Paranoid part in it, like you could have built something different off of that would have kept the tone. Like there's nothing. It doesn't help the melody in any way or the structure of the song in any way to have Paranoiac Personality said in the chorus.
You're just saying it a lot to make me look bad.
No, and I'm struggling saying it and making sure I'm saying it right, which is the point. Like, you can't have the build up to the big, simple, like, sing-along chorus and then have Paranoiac Personality in it. Like, it's a little bit contradictory, and it's really the one thing in the song that kind of doesn't sit right for me.
Yeah, I would say this is likely the first time in recorded history that you've got a chorus going along where in the background you've got guys going Parano. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, I agree that it's awkward. It is an awkward title, and if it's the anthemic part of the song, it adds a degree of difficulty that I'm not sure was 100% necessary.
Yeah, and you nailed it perfectly right there, anthemic. This is a chorus that they're trying to build one of those big anthemic sing-alongs. And I can completely see, people chanting along with this at an Alice show, and that's great, and that's fine. And then when you get to Paranoiac Personality, I can see those same drunk people mumbling and slurring through that.
Yeah, Poison's a lot easier to say.
Yeah. I just feel like they put the time in to come up with like a simple, repetitive chorus that people are going to remember and they want to get stuck in people's heads, and then made super awkward phrasing at the end of it.
Yeah, that is an intriguing choice, but even with that intriguing choice, Alice is going to have a hard time cracking the radio ever again, and I don't know exactly why. Because I think he's had a few candidates in the past. Sunset Babies All Have Rabies from a little while back from the Dirty Diamonds album. Could have been a fantastic radio song, and it was the single that was released, but it got zero traction. I'm worried about this one too. I think this deserves to get good airplay. It's a kind of song that deserves to do well, but I just don't know how it works anymore, whether he's going to be able to crack through with anything anymore. no matter what the quality.
Well, and that's a good point too, because we both love Alice, and obviously Alice has an enormous legion of fans all over the world. Does he really need to worry about trying to write radio songs at this juncture in his career?
I don't think for any other reason beyond proving that he can compete at that level, and he can do it.
And that makes sense. I mean, because let's face it, like there's nothing more to prove commercially. Like, he's had enormous successful records. He's had hits that have stood the test of the time for decades. There's nothing else to prove in that regard. He has an enormous fan base. He's not going to appeal to a 12-year-old who listens to mumble rap. So, like, it's weird to me this is clearly a song that is intended for radio play. So it's weird to me. Like, I'm not sure exactly what audience he is trying to court by making an overtly radio song. Not that that's a bad thing. My real only issue with this song is the awkward phrasing of the title. But it's just curious to me, like, did it just turn out this way, or was he like, I'm going to write a radio song going into it, which I would have to think it was the more likely scenario.
Yeah, and it's in a hook, hook laden. This is hook laden. Sunset Babies was hook laden. The most blatant radio song was Poison.
Right.
But I think Sunset Babies.
Poison worked.
Yeah, it certainly was popular with the kids, and apparently a very popular song at strip clubs too. We've heard.
You've heard.
I've heard.
Friends have told you.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Like
Your
Alice,
friend, air quotes, told you about that.
There's actually, and I believe it may actually be in Super Duper Alice Cooper, but there's been a couple times where Alice indicates that appears to be where it's gotten the greatest amount of airplay. So.
That makes sense to me. And it's funny because I remember, like, in my early bands when I first started playing music, that was our goal, like, to get a song played in a strip club.
Yeah, I don't think this one's going to be in a strip club.
No,
I like it.
I don't necessarily think this has the same stripper pull.
No. No. It's a great band name, but I would agree.
Somebody please start a band called Stripper Pull and dedicate your first album to Kelly and I.
Thank you.
All right, so moving along into the song, what did you think of the guitar solo in the song? Because I have some stuff to say about that.
So it's at the tail end, very tail end of the song. I didn't dislike it, but in terms of it, it did nothing to elevate the song. I don't think it necessarily harmed the song, but it didn't do much to elevate it. So I was basically a little bit tepid. I mean, good execution. It's not as if the person doing the solo wasn't talented. I don't think it fit as well with everything else that had gone on as much of the drive. And like I said, I just don't think it elevated the song. It was okay, but it seemed like it was tacked on to me. Yeah,
it definitely felt tacked on. I like the tone of the guitar in the solo, though, a lot. It's very overdriven, and there's really, really heavy fuzz distortion on it.
Yes.
Which is really cool, but doesn't match any of the other guitar parts in the song up until that point.
Yeah, it is a bit of a mismatch.
Yeah, and that's what makes it, like, you really hit it on the head there with it feels tacked on. That's really where that comes in at for me. Like, I love the tone of the solo because I'm a huge fan of, like, really overdriven guitars and tons of fuzz distortion on stuff, and this delivers that, but that doesn't match what we just heard before that. So it does feel kind of like tacked on, like they were finishing up the song and they were like, all right, we want to do the chorus one more time. What can we use as a lead into that? Going back to the awkward phrasing in the last chorus, he, like, switches the words around, which to me makes the phrasing even worse. Like, it really, really underlines that shouldn't have been the title of the song for me. Yeah, it's a tough one to work with. I think if you make that choice, you've added some weights to your run, ankle weights to your run this is a strong song, and it's a very good signal to what's coming up is going to be a very enjoyable album. Absolutely. This is overall a strong song. We don't like the title. The guitar solo feels a little tacked on. These are nitpicky things in the grand scheme of things, though. And if this is an indicator of the kind of stuff we can expect on the album, my expectations are pretty high at this point. Completely agree. All right, so now the B-side. What do you think of the live version of 18? So I've heard many, many, many versions of I'm 18 live in person on live albums, and this is another one of them. And it is kind of cool because it's the original group. You mentioned a little bit earlier, the bass is featured significantly in this yes. version. I wonder if that's a product of, if you kind of look at the Alice Cooper group are very solid musicians, but probably the
Dennis Dunaway's a pretty decent guy to showcase in terms of bass. And so I think that may be a component of it, to where you're not going to necessarily play up. Not that Michael Bruce is a bad guitarist, because he's not, but Alice has also worked with some pretty serious guitarists here over the past few years. So I think to a degree it was saying, hey, who can we shine a light on here who's really going to kind of thrive in it? And I think Dennis Dunaway is a good choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Dennis Dunaway is a really good bass player. And I feel like obviously overshines everybody, in the solo version of Alice Cooper has existed longer than the Alice Cooper group did. So, I think a lot of people sort of forget the contributions of the original members, or at least they get lost in the bigger picture, if that makes sense. So it was cool to kind of see such a solid bass player really prominently featured on one of their biggest hits. And like I said, like 18 to me, it's probably my least favorite song on Love It to Death. And it's such a huge, enormous, well-known song. And it's probably my least favorite song. And this kind of bass heavy live version, again, going back to where sometimes the live versions are better. And I've heard numerous live versions of this, like you said, but I really like this bass heavy mix of it. And it's of course great to hear the Alice Cooper group playing it.
Yeah, and playing it well, no kind of accommodation made. Neil Smith doesn't appear to have lost much. Still is a kind of pretty fascinating guy, because there's some decent footage you can kind of go see of some of these performances as well. And Neil's still this really big presence, because he's about 20 feet tall and big, long, and he's a big spider back there, hammering on the drums. And Michael Bruce is a great guitarist. I mean, I think, and a tremendous songwriter. So it was very kind of cool to see them together again. It is interesting that it's been a long road since they were together on a stage, and Alice has become a brand in and of himself. But it still felt like a group, as much as it can with Alice there, because of his strong now personal brand.
Absolutely. And that's a great thing to say about this, is that this felt like a band playing instead of listening to Alice Cooper and his band.
Which is what you would want and expect when the original Alice group gets back together.
Absolutely. And again, that plays into where I think what stands out the most on this track really is the mixing. So choosing to so prominently feature the bass in this and really shine a light back on the band.
Yeah, it was great to see him. It was great to hear them together again. We've had a couple opportunities here recently, but this is like a kind of first truly serious, we're out performing as a unit. And so that was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Now, I have a little bit of a hypothetical for you here. So they've already announced that in addition to the sporadic appearances that they've been doing as the Alice Cooper group, there is going to be an official, at least in the UK, an official Alice Cooper group tour. That's really exciting. I'm hoping there's US shows, but I'm willing to fly to the UK. Absolutely no need to do this. But in the alternate bizarro world, alternate reality kind of scenario. So the Alice solo group, of course, plays Alice Cooper group songs as part of their set. There's absolutely no reason for the Alice Cooper group to have to do that, because they have such a storied catalog to pull from. But if they were going to, try something out and try one of the Alice solo songs, what would you, as a longtime Alice fan, want to hear the original Alice Cooper group play from the Alice solo catalog?
Zorro's Ascent, of course. What else? I do like that song, but of the catalog, because I'd be kind of interested in somewhere in the Brutal Planet framework. I think that seeing what the Alice Cooper group, which was hardcore Detroit rock, not industrial, but in the same branch of the tree. I think Brutal Planet, Wicked Young Man might be kind of fun to see, because I think that Dennis could keep himself quite busy with the bass on that, and it'd be kind of fun to see what. And I think Neil would hold up well on the drums, and it'd be fun to see Michael Bruce kind of crack through some of that stuff. So I that's probably where my head goes. Just thinking about it off the top of my head, I kind of go into the Brutal Planet Dragon Town era, pull something out of there. Where would you go?
Actually, we're completely on the same page again, almost. I would go Brutal Planet as well. I would love to hear them do Brutal Planet. I know Brutal Planet, it's a record that got a great deal of attention, considering the time that it came out, the label that it came out on, what was going on in the music industry. It got a lot of attention. It wasn't positive attention for the most part, though, which I think is unfortunate, but I'll get into all that when we get to the album review. So for an Alice record that was very divisive and very talked about among fans, I think it makes the perfect sort of thing to pull from for the Alice Cooper group to do. And the song that stands out the most always to me off of that album, because of the music video that accompanied it, would be Gimme.
That would be good too.
And I just think they would kill that song.
Yeah, I think Gimme's strong. I think Brutal Planet would be another one that would, like I said, give Dennis a lot of bass work there. But yeah, I think Gimme would be excellent too. And that is a really good song.
And I feel like hearing those songs with some of the industrial elements kind of stripped away and replaced with more of a Detroit rock kind of vibe to it, but without making huge adjustments to the song itself, just more a stylistic thing. I think people might see that song and maybe the album as a whole in a slightly different light.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
All right. Any other thoughts you have on the single, sir?
Like it. I'm looking forward to hearing more. I'm always excited when new Alice stuff comes out, and I think we're in for a real treat. That's all I have.
Same here. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
And there's a lot of Scooby-Doo porn in general that I didn't know existed until the last couple weeks.
You must be so proud.
I'm just proud of myself that I got through my entire recommendation without using any objectionable language.
Okay. Want to be cool like Alice Cooper, do coke.